Next, we're going to go over to the third channel of the amp. This is where all of the really killer high gain sounds live that are really good for heavy metal and really, really singy lead playing. It's great saturation, all of those types of things. So Tim is going to take us through just some of the functionality of this third channel, and then we'll do some playing examples.
So the Mark IIC+ setting, it's kind of the next step evolution-wise from the Mark I. So where the Mark I had a really thick, rounded note, this is a little leaner and more aggressive and a little more gain. And so right now we have compensated accordingly. You know, the bass is up a little more. There is a bright switch that is active for channel 3 completely. So it is a global switch that affects all modes. We're going to play real quick, and I'm going to switch between the bright and the normal mode. And I want to point out in the back, there's a switch for pentode and triode. And these are power tube settings, and the original traditional setting for the wiring of the Mark IIC+ was a triode. And what that does, it gives you more of a silky, dynamic approach to single note lead sounds, where pentode will give you more aggressive, tight rhythmic playing. So we're going to do this first example, Mark IIC+ with the triode setting, and I'll switch the bright switch here for a second. Next is going to be the Mark IV mode here. We're going to start playing in the Mark IIC+ mode so you can hear the difference between that and the Mark IV mode. Typically, the Mark IV is still even a little leaner than the Mark IIC+, and there's a little bit more gain. The volumes are still pretty close, so I haven't touched anything here. We're going to leave it in normal. I did switch the switch in the back to pentode, which is using the full tube and getting more of that, you know, tight, bold punch. So if you want to hit it all. So next we're going to do extreme, which is another Mark IV mode that we used, and it's a little bit more low end introduced and a little punchier and more bold. So we're going to have to make some volume adjustments because it is a bit louder, but we're going to go right into extreme mode now. What I want to do now is have Paul play, and I'm going to actually move the sliders up and down while he's playing so you can hear the effect of each one and what it does in the mix.
Something you'll notice too, when Tim gets to the 750 fader, you're going to really hear when he pulls it way down, it's going to really take the tone to that classic heavy metal territory. So if you're trying to go after that sound, that's going to be one of the first things you're going to want to do with the graphic EQ, is grab the 750 fader and just pull it down.
After we do a little bit of chunky metal rhythms, we're going to get into some lead playing, and I want to illustrate how the 2200 it really pops you out in the mix. It really helps like get to that level of more of that upper vocal quality, and so we'll show that dramatic effect.
Next, we're going to go into the extreme mode of channel 3, and this is the most high gain setting on the entire amplifier. So we're going to go through a couple playing examples of chords and also some single note stuff.
All right. The main difference between the extreme and the Mark IV mode is that there's a little more low end and more gain, like I mentioned before. We're going to have Paul play here without EQ first, and then we're going to jump back into the EQ setting we had left off with in the Mark IV mode.
One of the other features I really like on this amp that's also available on several other Boogie models is the overall output control. If you're in a situation where the sound man tells you you're too loud and you have to turn down, or you're playing with the band and you can't hear yourself and you need to turn yourself up, instead of having to go to each individual volume knob, you can just grab this one overall output knob and it's going to universally bring all of the channels of your amp up or down.
And with that, the solo level is also connected to it. So you can simply set that above where your output level is set, and it is foot switchable to activate, your output volume going into the solo level. And what this does is give you a bump in volume. So I like it a lot personally for the clean boost, to jump out in the mix and come back, or for solo playing.
So what's going on with the variac power and the full power switch?
The full power is allowing all the voltage from the wall to have the amp operate on the full power at 120 volts here in the US. And the variac power will drop that voltage internally so the amp can respond differently. So technically it's running down to 95 volts, and so tubes react differently. Your attack feels a little spongier. So it's it's another kind of device that you can use for maybe lower wattage playing and studio stuff, or quiet late night playing and what you need to do. So
speaking of studio playing, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to play along to some tracks so you can hear how the Mark V sits in a mix with cymbals going and drums and bass and all that type of stuff. It's something that I think is really important to hear. Something I've seen a lot over the years with product videos is people just demonstrate with a solo instrument. And a lot of us, aren't just playing in our bedrooms. We're out doing records and playing in bands and stuff like that. So I think it's really important to hear how the amplifier works with instruments. So we're going to do that now.
to take this opportunity to thank you, Paul, for coming all the way out from Nashville to do this with us, and it's been
Thanks
great.
for having me.
And please check out our Facebook and Twitter pages as well as our home site, mesaboogie.com. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.